Rebellions in the North Africa and the Middle East and a nuclear crisis in Japan have raised many questions about U.S. energy policy. Are we still too dependent on imported oil? Is nuclear energy a safe alternative? One energy source, though, getting lots of attention right now is natural gas, since the U.S. has plenty of it. Joining us now to talk about the potential promise of natural gas, Boone Pickens, the legendary billionaire chairman of BP Capital, an energy-focused hedge fund. Boone, good to have you back here on Bloomberg. Natural gas, we know you like it. It's part of the Pickens plan. Why do you think it's such a crucial part of the energy problem here in the United States?
Well, it's, what I want us to do with my plan is get on our own resources. And natural gas is unbelievably cheap. It's cheap, it's abundant, it's cleaner than diesel or gasoline. And we buy foreign oil that's dirty, and this is clean domestic resource. Oh, this is going to happen. I promise you, it will happen. Natural gas in 5 years will have moved oil over. The control of OPEC will weaken dramatically in the next 5 years.
If it's the kind of thing, Boone, that's going to happen so quickly, and if it's in the economic interests of the people and the corporations of this country, then why do we have to use the government to incentivize it? Why does the government have to steer corporate resources with giving up tax revenues? I mean, we're at a point right now where we're taking food stamps away from poor people. Why would you want to subsidize the use of natural gas?
Well, when you say subsidize, what I want to do is there's an incremental difference in the trucks, in the 18-wheelers. And that's what I'm focused on, are those 8 million 18-wheelers. And the incremental difference when you go from diesel to natural gas is about $60,000. That'll be for a short period of time, and then it'll come down. The incremental difference on scale will dramatically change within 2 or 3 years. All I want is a start. I just want a direction. I just want the White House to say, this is what we're going to do, and we'll do it. But what I'm asking for in this bill, which will be filed tomorrow in the House, the Natural Gas Act, is $4 billion. And it's got, and that $60,000 tax credit that's in that bill, that's all I want. But that's only 143,000 trucks out of 8 million. So it's just a start to get us going.
But so what I'm asking, Boone, though, is if it's the best economic decision, if it's in the financial interest of UPS, for example, to do this, why do we have to help them out with tax incentives? Why don't they just, in a free market capitalist society that we all love and are glad to live in, why don't they make that decision themselves?
They will make the decision, but it's just going to take you longer to do it. If you'll show direction here and some leadership and take us in that direction, then it'll be very clear to everybody that this is what we're going to do, is we're going to get on our own resources. And so just let it drift. That's what we've done in the past. But we'll finally get there. So if you want to do that, but you know, now 2/3 of your trade deficit is a purchase of foreign oil. And you're sitting here looking at the Mideast. You know, if disaster came to the Mideast, which would be the Saudis go down, if that happened, you're $300-400 a barrel is where you are.
Boone, there are folks out there who are listening to you and saying, you know, he's just kind of talking his book. He's got investments in natural gas, and of course he's going to talk up natural gas. I mean, what do you say to those who are skeptical about what you're saying right now?
Well, heck, let's don't do it. Let's just go on and let it go like it's going to go. I promise you it's going to get there. But you know, I've been in this business since, well, I got out of school in '51. I'm a geologist, and I don't know how many years ago, that's probably 100 years that but I've been at it. But I'm about 5 feet wide and 50 feet deep. There's not much I know but energy. But I can tell you I know energy. But I don't think the fact that I believe in this and that I have investments in these areas that I'm out here talking this up. I've spent over $80 million on the Pickens plan out of my pocket. So if I was in it for money, I wouldn't have spent the $80 million. But the country desperately needs an energy plan. You say, well, is this going to be an energy plan? 8 million trucks. No, but it's the first step. Well, you know, you've got to get something going. We're the only country in the world without an energy plan.
Well, talk about the price, though, with him. Boone, Adam just painted a picture here of supply, and it looks like we're near the top of what the world can generate right now as far as what we got tapped. I guess it all comes down to, when you look at the price, a question of demand, right? I mean, how much are we willing to pay for the gas that we need or think we need?
Okay. I think the world probably not produce over 89 million barrels a day. And last month we were 87.4 million. You look at the projections for the fourth quarter, and it's 90 million barrels a day. You know, we get all kinds of data points because we're in touch with a lot of people. And Adam, when he says you got 355 million barrels of oil in storage, Adam, you're talking about in the United States. Is that correct?
I believe he's talking about the strategic reserves, yes?
No, he's not. The strategic reserves are 750 million barrels. The SPR is totally different than what Adam was giving us. But what he's talking about is the United States. And you look at around the world, demand is growing. China's back up 6% on oil, and that was reported today. So there's no question that we are getting to a peak on oil, and demand is continuing to move up. So if you have capped out on supply for oil, then you can only manage demand with price. So the price is going to go up. You're going to see a $120 oil coming up here pretty quick.
Pretty quick. All right. So what, you're saying in the next 3 months, in the next 2 months, Boone? What are you saying here?
It'll be 3 to 6 months. You'll have 120.
And then what happens from there? As you say, if globally, you know, on a global supply basis, we're getting tapped out here. We know demand is growing. Just look at India, look at China, pick your, you know, emerging economy. What happens after that 120? Is it the sky's the limit? Is 200 then just what, a year away or something?
No, at 120, you'll start to kill demand. If you go back to 2008, when we saw $4 gasoline in July of 08, and then the world kind of hit the wall on just a global economic breakdown, and it confused the oil issue pretty well. But now you're going to get a better look at it without a recession to deal with too. Anytime you go into a slowdown, you know, in the economy, demand is going to come off pretty good. But I think back there in 08, that around 120, 125, you were really killing demand. And it ran on up, you remember, to 147.
Right.
And then collapsed to 33. Well, all that, I mean, here you're gonna start killing demand, and when you finally get the market to balance, if supply is capped out at 88 or 89, and you have a 90 demand, you'll balance the market by raising the price and to bring everything in line.
Let me ask you, Boone, about Adam's other question, which is really, you know, how can we separate ourselves from the dependence we have on foreign oil? The president's asking the same question, everybody in Washington. You say last year we spent $337 billion on oil imports. Means in the time that we've been talking to you, the last 10 minutes, we spent about $6.5 million on oil imports. Aside from natural gas, what can we do? Boost nuclear? Look more into wind, which I know you supported in the past. Solar? What do you think we need to do?
Well, solar, wind, and nuclear do not run trucks and cars. So those are not any help on transportation fuel. So 70% of every barrel of oil goes to transportation fuel, either diesel or gasoline. So you're going to have to, if you want to replace diesel, is where I want to start. But let's back up and look at the picture for what it is. There's about 88 million barrels produced. We're using 20 million barrels. So we're approaching 25% of all the oil used in the world every day. We only have 4% of the population. That is not sustainable. That you cannot continue down that trail. This year, if oil is $100 a barrel average, the OPEC countries will receive from their customers around the world, everybody, over $1 trillion. That is the largest transfer of wealth from one place to another in the history of mankind. That's not sustainable either. So get on something that is sustainable.
Right.
Get on your own resources. But the only one you've got, well, there are two. We produce 7 million barrels of oil. We could produce more oil if we had the right help from the government.
Boone. Welcome back. We're talking with Boone Pickens. Boone, you've obviously spent lots of times in Washington. You've talked to various administrations, the current administration, lots of lawmakers. Energy policy, a national energy policy. We hear lots of broad strokes, but we don't get a lot in terms of specifics. What do we need from the folks in Washington when it comes to a national energy policy?
You've got to have some leadership. In 40 years, our country has never had an energy plan. And all this first step is this Natural Gas Act, which will be filed tomorrow. I think it'll be voted on in the House within 30 days, and then it'll go to the Senate. I think the Senate will pass it before the summer recess, but I'm a pretty optimistic guy too. But I think this first step to an energy plan we're going to have this year. But this is an absolute, we have to do this because here we are, we have more natural gas than any other country in the world. I think we got 4,000 trillion natural gas. That's equivalent to 700 billion barrels of oil, which is 3 times what the Saudis have. I mean, we are huge. Let me give you one other point. 1 MCF of natural gas is equal to 7 gallons of diesel. Okay, they'll do the same amount of work, they'll move the truck the same distance, everything. Right. 1 MCF of natural gas is $4.50, and 7 gallons of diesel is $25. $25. Here you're 20% of the cost of the same amount of diesel. We look like fools that we don't take advantage of this.
Boone, I get your argument. The mathematics make sense. But what about some of the safety issues for natural gas, about getting into the water, about explosions? We've all seen the reports out there. I mean, doesn't that worry you a little bit about if we really embrace natural gas on a wider scale?
You're talking in the water and explosions. You've got 20,000 gasoline explosions a year. Very little is said about those. But no, I think it's safer than gasoline. It's lighter than air. So if some container breaks, it goes to the atmosphere. No, there are 12 million vehicles in the world today on natural gas. 134,000 of them in the United States, and we have more natural gas than any other country does.
I'm sorry, Boone. I want to switch gears real quickly because we want to get your take on what's going on in Washington. Aside from the Natural Gas Act, we're going to talk with Representative Joe Walsh in a second about the possible closure of the government, about the budget. What do you think about that? I mean, will you be disappointed if they close down the government, if Washington doesn't accept this budget by Friday?
That's not my question. Look, I'm your energy guy. And I don't fool with whether the government should be. Some days I wish they'd shut it down for a year or two, but so you don't want me answering the question. So.
All right. Well, we'll just stick with natural gas. We appreciate you joining us, Boone Pickens.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.